Hello guys, welcome to this episode. On this episode, we are going to build an app that will be utilizing the Gemini API to make prompts and get the results back. The first step obviously is to create a new project. I'm using Jetpack, Compose and Kotlin. So once you have that, the next thing is we need to have an API key, and these we will get it through the Google AI Studio. Go to this documentation of the Gemini API, and then once you click on this, you will be taken here. And I already generated mine, and the way to generate an API key is to just click that and then click on this and click on that, and then generate a new API key. And once you have your API key, we need to put the API key in the local.properties file. Well, back to the Android Studio, the local.properties file, it's a small project. You don't really need to do this, but we'll do it anyway. But before we add our API key here, we need to add some dependencies that will help us to actually find it using the BuidConfig. Well, for the dependencies, we go back to now the documentation, and once you open these, it will take you to this Github repo. You copy this and back to our Android Studio. We are going to add that in the project grader.bts. And once the build is complete, then we need to copy this, now the plugins, and actually just need the plugin itself. Now module app, so we'll add that here. We need to copy this dependency, and we'll add our dependency. I will also add a ViewModel dependency. So the build is successful, and now we need to add our API key. So we need to put it in the local.properties. So I'll just name it as my API key, and it's a string, so add it in a string form. Then we need to make some changes here on the build features. We need to add BuidConfig. We need to make sure that that is true, so that this class is created, and through that we will be able to actually access our API key. So once you have done that, we need to build these so that now we can have access to the BuidConfig class. Well, since our app has nothing to show and it is built successfully, if we look for the BuidConfig class then and access it, we can find our API key, and that's what we need to move forward with this project. So once everything is done, I want us to first build our ViewModel, and then with our ViewModel now, that's where everything will be. So we'll create the view model, just call it texts Gemini view model, which will extend the view model class. And here we will first create now the generative model for the Gemini API. So we'll have and this could be private, so generative model, which is and this generative model will accept the model name. So this is basically the version of the Gemini. So for the text base, we'll be using the Gemini Pro, and then we'll need to have our API key, which we'll access from the BuidConfig dot our API key. And now with that, we'll now create a function which we will use to make the prompt. So I'll just call it make prompt. And now in this function, I will have a hard-coded prompt for this example. So we have our view model scope. I will use try. So we get the results, and the results will have the generative model that we have created above, and then we will call the generate content, and then we'll pass the prompt. We have a catch, so just a simple exception, and now we need to add these results somewhere. So I will create a class, a sealed class, which is basically will act as the UI state. This should be a sealed class. We will have our object, and let's say the welcome state. This should be a capital letter state, and this should then we have the object error. So in case we get an error, then we have the data class for success, and here we'll have our result. So basically it would just remain as texts, but I'll just call it result. So back to our view model. So we'll have the initial UI state for our app. That's our initial state, and once we have the results back, so this should be, just set it as private set. Then once we have the results back, we need to add them. Now we have the so this have the success, and then we pass the results. Yeah, so we're getting this error because we specified this should be a string, so we will need to get the texts and then to string. Yeah, and if we have an error, maybe we will print the stack trace, and we have the text just UI state equal to being an error. UI state dot error. So the next step is to create our home screen. So we are going to create our home screen, add them here, resolve some of these errors. Yeah, so we have just change that to the welcome screen. So the welcome screen has a column, here's the text and a button that we will click to actually call this function, that's the make prompt function. Then we have the success screen, and the success screen has a column that has a vertical scroll because maybe the results will be long, so that's why we have the vertical scroll. And then we have the error screen, and this just will display a text. And here we will have our view model. So now we need the state, and we also need to access it on this composable. So text UI state, and with that we'll use when, so that we can actually go through all the states possible. Success screen, and success screen needs the results. So the results, remember we had we passed the results to the UI state, so we can access them here, and we'll just use the text UI state dot results. And for the welcome states, just calls prompt. We need now to call, so ViewModel dot make prompt. You could also just say ViewModel make prompt. The last step is actually to call the home screen into the main activity. So home screen, and then I just have a modifier here, and the padding, just have the padding, and we're good to go. But I actually forgot something very important. We need to allow the use of internet, otherwise we will not be able to make the calls. So use this. This is permission, Android. Yeah, so our app is good to go. So you just make some tests and see how it goes. So I just rebuild this. Yeah, so fingers crossed, when we click on make prompt, we should see the prompt in a view. You could add a loading screen, by the way. Just skip it, and here we have the prompt back to our mobile application. So that's how you do it. This is just a simple example of how you do it, and feel free to make all the changes that you can. This is just simple thing to show you how you can have the Gemini API on your mobile application. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you later. Cheers.